the thing about the culture war is that it always comes with like delightful imagery.
Where we get in trouble is when we say, why do they quote unquote fall for this? Elijah and Yale have told me that there is a massive, quote-unquote, campaign experts Zodiac-shaped hole in the YouTube sphere. We never want to leave people wanting for the content they so clearly, desperately need. So Alyssa's joining me today to answer some of your questions. And today's topic is, dun dun dun, the culture war.
So ready.
All right. Our first question comes from Patrick Collins. Seems like a real name. The culture war isn't real. It is the projection of resistance to placate a base of people whose engagement of politics has never gone deep enough to get to policy, but is simply at the level of my team good, your team bad. This is not an objective question, I would say. Given this, Alyssa, why do people fall for it over and over again? Thanks, an annoyed progressive. I never would have guessed this person was either progressive or annoyed by what was happening based on the tone and tenor of their question. But what do you think?
Buddy, I mean, because it's easy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, look, the thing about the culture war is that it always comes with like delightful imagery, right? It comes with pictures, it comes with videos, it comes with like how to be outraged. And also, it always involves, in my view, a bit of like nostalgia, right? Because it is somehow someone trying to take away something that you love. It's such low-hanging fruit. It's so easy. When there are so many like hard problems to grasp in this world, they tend to attack things that are quite easy to relate to.
I agree with all of that. The issue I would take with our questioner, who I share Patrick's progressive credentials and general annoyance at this entire topic, but I think where we get in trouble is when we say, why do they quote unquote fall for this? Which is
fair.
Which is a sort of typical approach that a lot of progressive politicians and political operatives have, where we say, if only the people would learn about the things I really stand for, then they would support me. And that's just not how politics works. And the context for this conversation on the culture war is, while we're in the middle of a pandemic, the Congress has been passing a historic piece of progressive legislation in the American Rescue Plan. Fox News, right-wing media, has been dominated by a couple of stories, including outrage at a gender-neutral potato, complete obsession with Dr. Seuss, and it's dumb and trivial. Like, who cares?
Right.
But what I think progressives have to understand is that there is something that is palpable that undergirds all of that. And it's what you said, it's nostalgia. It is this consistent argument hammered home by the right that a bunch of people, black people, brown people, elite people, are coming to take away your life. For the overwhelming majority of time in this country, white, Christian, primarily men had all the political power, and things are changing. We had a black president. We have a black woman who's vice president. The country is going to be majority minority in a couple of decades. And that fear is what drives Trumpism. That's what drives all of these things. It's like, oh, they're not going to tell you can't even read Dr. Seuss anymore. And the Dr. Seuss thing is powerful because it is something that it touches on something that everyone remembers from their youth, right? So they're coming for Dr. Seuss first. They come for Dr. Seuss. Who are they going to come for you? And so that underlies all of it. And it doesn't mean that we have to engage in that sort of nostalgia. That's not what we have to do. We have to understand the emotions that lead to it. And politics is about emotional connection. And we can't be like, oh, they are fighting to save the America that you believe in, which is laced with misogyny and racism and all the other things. And we're going to pass policy, right? We have to have a way, you have to make the case for the things we are doing with a similar emotional appeal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, one sec. I just want to hop in here real quick. Dan, are you saying Dr. Seuss?
Dr. Seuss? Dr. Seuss?
It sounds like Zeus.
Well, you can fix it for me. Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss.
Seuss. Seussical the musical.
Okay.
Next question is from Ellie W. Why do you think people on the right like to paint those on the left as quote-unquote snowflakes, SJWs, and accuse us of playing the victim? Yet when things and people are canceled, they seem to feel so personally attacked and offended, it seems a bit hypocritical to me. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's hypocritical.
Yeah, they're full of shit. The answer to your question, Ellie, is that they are full of shit. The entire basis of modern conservatism is just trolling, right? They want to do the equivalent of you hit your sibling hits you back, and then you tell your mom on them. Like that,
Totally.
that is exactly what's happening here. Yeah.
As someone about to be a father of 2, that's a very good analogy.
I mean, I got my phone on because it could happen at any minute.
I know.
Okay, next question is from Melissa Oler. Do journalists feel dumb covering this stuff? Let me paraphrase that question. Do we feel dumb? Not that we're journalists. Do we feel dumb covering this right now?
In the context of something greater, no. But when Aaron and I thought about, should we talk about Dr. Seuss? We were like, what? And then we did. And then we're like, should we cut it? Do we sound stupid? So I'd say, yeah, people feel a certain way potentially.
The term journalist is quite broad these days. The combination of cable plus social media, which is powered by an outrage-inducing algorithm, means that we're seeing this stuff in a lot of ways, and we yell about journalism. What we really mean is, why is this getting so much attention? It's getting so much of attention because our entire media ecosystem is broken, and it lends itself to this stupid stuff. Okay, next question comes from Chris.
Do it. Buzwain. Buzwin?
Chris
B.
I was going to say Chris B. Chris Beswain. Apologies, Chris. Your question is great. I wish people would get as worked up about the loss of voting rights as they are about this shit. I presume this shit means Dr. Seuss and
Potatoes.
Potatoes. How do we get them there? Love from the Netherlands. Oh, there we go.
Wow. Concerned in the Netherlands. It's so easy to care about a potato. Like, you had Mr. Potato Head, you played with it when you were growing up, you may have it in your closet still, and the fight is it's like so black and white. It's so easy. I mean, voting rights is easy too. One thing that I have tried to do personally, it's like you see the Dr. Seuss stuff, and I was all mad about it. I'm like, this is crazy. Look at the history of Dr. Seuss. He wouldn't want these books out there anymore. But the thing is that by not engaging with the sort of false fight that they're trying to, that the cancel culture people are trying to put forward, it kind of like sucks the oxygen. Like, if they don't have people to fight with about Mr. Potato, they're just talking to themselves about Mr. Potato. And so I think that we kind of have to not engage on the stupid fights, which I have definitely done. And sometimes I do. And you text me, buddy, do you really want to do that? And because I am one of those people. I am literally the person this guy's talking to. I get worked up about things, but the thing is, they're trying to do a bait and switch. And instead of it's not that different than Governor Abbott. Fucking bitch can't govern his state. And he's like, you know what? You're all getting $5,000 electric bills right now, but I'm going to say you don't have to wear masks anymore. And so I think that it's we can't let the fight escalate, and we can't engage in the fight that they're trying to have over things like Mr. Potato Head, because that's how everything goes off track.
All political arguments are ultimately about power. Who has it, who wants it, and who's trying to take it away. They're going to stop you from reading books to your kids. They're going to make you put a mask on your face. And we, Democrats, progressives, etc., have not done a good job of doing the other side of that argument, because voting rights is very explicitly about taking power away from people. What lies at the core of all of this fight over H.R. 1 and the voter suppression laws that are being passed in Arizona and Georgia and New Hampshire and elsewhere is America is a country defined by a growing, progressive, diverse majority. And our laws are being written by a shrinking, mostly white conservative minority that's trying to hold on to power. And we have to talk about voting rights in the context of why Republicans are trying to take power away from us and who they want to give it to. My view of that is we have to talk, here's who wins when you lose your right to vote, or college kids in New Hampshire don't get a chance to vote, or we're going to keep black people and brown people from voting in Georgia and Arizona, is that empowers corporations and special interests, the ones who want tax cuts for the rich, the ones who want to get rid of regulations and laws that prevent them from poisoning our air and our water. We have to make the case to get our people fired up, and we have not actually tried to do that. We just kind of expect people to just understand intuitively why this matters without making a compelling and evocative case for why it does. This is from Elijah, our producer, who could have just slacked either one of us, but we'll do it this way. Joe Biden and Democrats just passed a massive COVID relief bill that benefits many Americans. How do we let potential voters know about this when many of them get their information from Facebook and Fox News? What do you think?
Buddy, no, this is one for you because this one stumps me because I live someplace where people get a lot of their news from Fox News. And I got to be honest, it's a hard wall to climb.
This is incredibly hard. And this has been a huge challenge for Democrats for a very long time. There have been a gazillion meetings about it, discussions, people have written books about it. The short answer here, I think, is this is a case where you're going to have to pay for people to see this. The passage of the American Rescue Plan cannot simply be press releases and press conferences and speeches and interviews and trips to places that benefit from the American Rescue Plan. That is not enough. That will not break through to a lot of people. You're going to have to pay through ads. Facebook currently has their ads turned off, but you can run ads on Fox. You can run digital ads targeting people who you know are Fox viewers. And so that's part one. And part two is, and this ties back to the broader question about why Republicans do the culture war. One of the reasons why they have to do the culture war is the Republican Party is a political organization that is in a irreconcilable conflict with itself. It is a party that is more and more fueled by a working class base that supports populist economics, and it is run by and funded by a bunch of corporatist plutocrats who want to cut taxes for the rich and allow corporations to rape and pillage the planet. And those two things are often irreconcilable. And they're particularly irreconcilable in this bill, which, because of the checks, because of the thought that there was potentially be minimum wage inclusion at some point. So working class Republicans agree with Democrats and President Biden on economic issues. And so they want to take the conversation off of economics and put it on cancel culture issues, and we got to move it back to that. Okay, here is our last question from Ward Vermisen, and this is the $10,000 question, I would say.
Yeah.
Will the GOP strategy, parentheses, culture war plus voter suppression, be effective? It's rather terrifying, but at the same time, they've abandoned any pretense at policy. There isn't even a cancel Obamacare anymore, just cancel culture. Do you think it'll work?
I mean, I think it has shades of working. The fact that some people who support Donald Trump were elected back into office and insane QAnon supporters were elected into office means that some of this stuff is working a little bit. This look over here from everything else. But buddy, it's interesting. I read something very smart this weekend from Messagebox, from this thing I get in my email called Messagebox. And I think that part of his question is answered by something that you wrote, which was, let me make sure I get it correct. Democrats will only get credit for doing the right thing, and Republicans will only get the blame for doing the wrong thing if people know about it. And so part of this question, I think, is also answered by what you're talking about, which is that they can keep doing this stuff, but if we flood social media and the news and people's inboxes with real information, like when people get shots in their arms, if they connect those shots to the fact the government is actually functioning, I think that we can stop it from working.
I'm not going to disagree with myself, that's for sure. But
that's why I made the point.
Will it be effective? Probably. It has been effective for a very long time. All of this stuff is super powered by Fox News and particularly Facebook, but it's been around for a very long time. The Republican resurgence in the late 70s, leading into Reagan, was entirely based around cultural issues, where they ran campaigns against gay rights in cities all across this country that were becoming more progressive than the rest of the country on those issues. It's how George W. Bush was reelected, where he ran I know everyone thinks he's charming because he gives Michelle Obama mints now, but his reelection campaign was based entirely on a homophobic, bigoted strategy of putting same-sex marriage bans on the ballot in battleground states. And so this has always worked. If politics was decided by the opinions of the majority of Americans, this strategy would not work. But when you combine it with culture war, which is firing up the base, and voter suppression, which is making it harder for people outside of your base to vote, then you have a very good chance of succeeding. The danger for Democrats in this still is it cannot simply be, we mailed you this check, right? That is not, like the checks are very, very popular. Right. That is incredibly important to talk about and make sure Democrats get credit for. And as you mentioned, the people getting vaccinated, Joe Biden gets credit for that, and we should make sure he gets credit for that. But we need to make those arguments in a way that breaks through, in a way that motivates people, inspires people. And the thing we've had in our back pocket for the last 4 years is the person who was in the White House. Trump was the motivating factor. And you sort of appended everything onto the fact that there was this uniquely existentially dangerous human being running for re-election. And now we don't have that. And how we can transfer that level of fear and outrage combined with inspiration and hope into getting into a message that talks about what we're doing and talks about what they would undo is the big question for 2022. We got some time to figure that out, but I think there is a danger that a trap that we fell into, particularly in the early years of the Obama world, is if only people would know all the good shit we did, they would love us. And it's more complicated than that. And sometimes Republicans understand that in ways that Democrats don't. Thank you for joining me for this sequel to Campaign Experts React. If you have a topic you want us to discuss next time, let us know in the comments.